Welcome to another episode of Courageous Conversations Live. I'm your host, Pierre Quinn, and here on Courageous Conversations, we're leveraging the stories of leaders, of creatives, of entrepreneurs to help you live and lead with greater courage. Joining me on this episode of Courageous Conversations Live, I know you see the matching names on both sides of the screen with the banner. Joining me on this episode is Pierre Monice. Pierre, thanks for being my guest today.
Pierre, thanks for having me. It's kind of weird saying my name, but I know I'm talking to you. But I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, and if you are watching on LinkedIn Live, I know some people are watching on YouTube and Facebook as well. Need to do a couple of things for us. Number one, hop in the comment section. We love to give you a shout out here on Courageous Conversations. Number two, I know you're going to have a question for Pierre Monice about leading in changing times. So drop that in the comment section. We'll get to as many questions as we can. And also hit the share button because sharing is caring, and we want to empower and impact as many leaders as we can with this conversation. So, Pierre, give us the 30-second, 60-second elevator conversation about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, no, great. Pierre Monice, I'm a people leader. Started in ministry, working for the church organization, and through a series of just moves, the Lord led me, and now I've moved my ministry into the healthcare leadership space. And I'm really pumped up and excited to work with leaders to move teams to help them reach levels of success, employee engagement, and people strategies. So every day is a great day to do what I do.
Okay, so let's hop back in the time machine and go and take me to undergrad. When you were in your undergraduate experience, well, did you see possibly a healthcare administrative executive role? Was that even on the radar for you? I know you said you know pastoral context, but was something administrative healthcare in your perspective in any way?
I mean, to be totally honest and candid, not at all. Not at all. My father is a pediatrician, so I've been around the healthcare space. I can't stand needles or blood. I still get queasy when I take my flu shot. So healthcare was only, the concept of healthcare was where I would go potentially to visit family or sick, shut in loved ones, but I never saw it. But I do see. I've seen the parallels of obviously the leadership aspect of it, but it came out of nowhere, to be honest.
So walk us through that transition from congregational leadership to working in the healthcare industry. How did that happen to you? I know some people are even have considered it before, and they want to know how did you make that shift?
Oh, excellent. Yeah, no, great question. So I was senior pastor in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Great church, great family, church family situation, doing well. I'm originally from Florida, so I ended up moving back to Florida after 2.5 years due to a family emergency. My father was sick. And while I was teaching, finishing up my master's in business, because even when I'm pastoring, I knew that I was doing almost 90% administrative and strategic planning. So, and I enjoyed that. And I was also fortunate where most of my elders were entrepreneurs or had their own business and were very successful. Some were in the healthcare space, some were in the engineering space. So I was around it and was open to it. And then while I was teaching, I had an opportunity to join a healthcare system with an administrative fellowship where they kind of brought me on almost as a glorified intern, if you will, and they allowed me to rotate through different departments of the healthcare system. So someone saw the potential in me and gave me an opportunity, and I'm grateful for that.
So give us the scope of, there's been some geographic transitions in your career as well. Give us the scope of your role and responsibility when you were in Florida, and then what's the scope of what that looks like now in your new location?
Yeah. So it was a progression. So in Florida, I was in Central Florida. I was in Orlando, started in recruitment. So I was a recruitment manager overseeing recruitment functions for the eight. At that time, it was eight facilities in the Central Florida region for that company. Then moved into a campus HR leadership position, and that was fun. And was able to move into an operational role. So my last position in Central Florida with that system was a chief operating officer. Lots of fun, really being able to work alongside fantastic leaders, move strategies and functions to bring more access to care in that community. And then most recently, I'm now in Chicago, Illinois, leading the HR functions, human resources functions for four different regions and territories for my current healthcare system. So just almost same kind of work, just a larger scope. And it's been a blessing the whole time.
What are some of the things that you learned and developed in the congregational leadership context that have paid huge dividends in the healthcare slash corporate leadership context? What are you able to bring out of your bag from having served as a congregational leader?
Yeah, I think number one, people matter. The organization is just a building, right? Just a zip code, I usually say, but people matter. So, in order to move people to achieve a goal, you have to connect with them on a relational and a personal level. You need to know what makes them tick. You need to know, hey, what strengths they bring to the table, and also their weaknesses. And let's not pay too much attention on the weaknesses, but let's get a team that could function in their strength so they can be successful. And literally every stop of leadership I've been to, the more I connected with people, I spent time getting to know them, knowing how they tick and function. I've had a pretty good track of putting people in their sweet spot so that the team can march in unison to accomplish their goals.
Okay, so let's talk about sweet spots. Frame for us the conversation when you realize, the organization realizes, the person realizes, I'm not in my sweet spot. And I could be very good in the spot that I am in, but this isn't the sweet spot. This isn't where I can maximize what I'm able to contribute. How have you been able to have those conversations, or how have you navigated those conversations with people maybe who recognize that this isn't the best role, but they're maybe even averse to switching roles or seeing things from a different perspective?
Yeah, no, happy to share. I personally believe feedback is a gift.
Mhm.
And too often in society, we don't like feedback, right? We like to use constructive criticism. Sometimes it's just plain feedback. I mean, how well are you doing, or how are you not making, accomplishing the objective? So I enjoy and I encourage all leaders. If you have a team that reports to you, spend time regularly, if not weekly, one on one, closed door. How are you doing? What's going on? How are you accomplishing your goal? Do you feel successful? Let me tell you how I feel about what you're doing. And you'll be honest. People will be honest. They'll tell you, I enjoy 90% of my job, but the 10% I despise, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's a fallacy, I believe, Pierre, that we need to treat every employee, every team member the same. I haven't found that to be true. I like to, understand, although someone may be in the same job description, same job responsibility, guess what? I mean, there may be certain pieces of that job function they do very, very well, and let's put somebody else right next to them so that they can be successful.
Mm, mm. Man, so many questions are flooding through my mind right now. We're wrestling with the crisis of COVID. And for many organizations, what COVID has done, it has accelerated the awareness of problems that were already there, but for whatever reason, we didn't want to deal with them. And one of those major problems is wrestling with the leadership style that is needed for our current context has to be different because the times are changing. Give us some perspective on how you've noticed maybe in your organizations that you work with or other organizations, sometimes the pushback on the need to embrace different leadership philosophies for where the organization is and where the culture is right now.
Yeah, I truly believe that COVID through this pandemic has literally flipped the leadership pyramid where prior to COVID, large organizations really focus on hard skills. Can you drive results? Can you bring in more revenue? Can you increase, engagement? Now it's the soft skills. The soft skills are what's important.
Mm.
Are you able to relate to people? Are you really are you able to amplify, display empathy? Can you show caring? Can you communicate? We're in a virtual environment for the most part.
Yeah.
So if you can't communicate virtually, if you can't read in between the lines, guess what? People won't want to work for you. And most organizations, close to 60%, if not more, of their bottom line involves labor. That's people.
Yeah.
So every time someone leaves, that's money walking out of your organization. So nobody wants to work for a leader that during this pandemic doesn't care about their childcare needs, doesn't care about their health. And when you put those things ahead of everything else, that individual will bend backwards and forwards to do their best job for you. And that's why I always like to say, people matter. You have to focus on people. And prior to COVID, it was themed as soft skills, but now I believe the soft skills are the new hard skills.
Mm. So in a space, because with managing reputations and how people consider us, I'm on your team, Pierre, and say I'm an older leader. Say I'm 15 years your senior in terms of chronology, but in terms of position, you lead me. And the reality is, okay, Pierre, there's a set of skills I'm just not good at. And I know you've picked up on it, and I know but I'm uncomfortable, like having to learn this new skill, having to be trained by someone younger than me, having to learn a new system, and it's making me difficult to deal with in my job. Now, I've been here longer than you have. I know this organization. I was, with it when it's heyday and I was running this, that, and the other. How do you approach those situations? Or what's your advice for emerging leaders who have to approach situations like that, where they're coming to an organization, they have a senior function, but they're wrestling with individuals who have been longer at the organization than them, and even in the past had a leadership function, and now they're providing coaching and counsel for that individual?
Yeah, and that happens on a regular basis, Pierre. And my piece of advice is don't be afraid to be vulnerable,
Mm.
right? As a leader, just because you have that title and position doesn't mean you have all the answers. Honestly, I'll tell you right now, you won't have all the answers. So
Yeah.
as you work with people around you who work for you and with you, tell them you don't know what you don't know. So there's going to be a value and a place for that senior member on your team who has tenure. But guess what? The next piece, after you're vulnerable with your team, you got to set that vision. All right, what does success look like?
Mm.
And as long as you set that level set what success looks like and ensure that the entire team is committed to that vision for success, then you can have some really transparent conversation. Now, sometimes that tenured team member says, you know what, I get it, right? This is how I can help for us to be successful. And there may be times where that tenured person becomes a roadblock. And I like to put it, you may need to help them find their happiness somewhere else. And those are the tough conversations. But at least you were vulnerable. You told them that I don't have all the answers. I need you. You defined the vision, and then you held them accountable to their actions.
You know, you mentioned success that is a root word of succession. How important is that consideration, especially considering the technological advances that we're having, the shifts in climate, even the social unrest and perspective, the need to be a part, many people who are looking to work in organizations to be a part of a mission-minded organization. How can senior leaders place more emphasis on being intentional about succession planning, not just for their role, but for their organization in general? Whereas maybe in the past, we've seen leaders who, hey, I'm retiring in 5 years or so. I'm going to ride off into the sunset. Whatever happens, happens when I'm gone, and I've put my work in. How can we shift to have more of a succession mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a concept that most organizations struggle with because we're always looking forward, but not too much forward with the people behind us. So, my number one experience and my advice would be for any leader at any part of the organization, to challenge them, how are you adding value to the people beneath you and the people that work with you? So as you add value, people will tell you, the person that reports you will tell you, hey, I want to get my master's. Hey, I want to be in leadership. Hey, I want to work in another department. So we typically look at value in an organization as what can that individual do for the organization?
Yeah.
But let's put that aside and say, what can you as a leader do for Cindy, for Billy? Okay, this person wants to grow in leadership. This person may not want to be on my team for the next 2-3 years. Let me help them get there. And that takes maturity for a leader, right? Because we all want to assume as leaders that everybody wants to stay with us forever, but that's not the case. So as you look to add value to people, and then people will be very transparent about, hey, I want to grow, and then continue to foster that growth. And I think that's when succession planning becomes very natural.
You mentioned the uncomfortable conversation about sometimes having to help team members find their happiness somewhere else. What about for the leader themselves when maybe they reach the understanding that, and I've hit the milestones, I've hit the markers, I'm maxed out as it relates to growth and opportunity here. How can you navigate digging into the question of what's next while also managing sometimes the false guilt that comes from even being open to that question in the first place?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one, Pierre. It's a good one though. I'll be honest. A leader has to be growing in order for his or her team to grow. So if you're not spending time, personal development, leadership development, pushing yourself, you have nothing to give to your team and to your colleagues, people around. So I believe in that process of personal development, what you're reading, what you're listening to, who you're surrounding yourself to. Unfortunately, leadership isn't an 8 to 5 job. I mean, you can't put the hat on and take it off.
Yeah.
You need to be leading, in your personal life, in your family life, right? And I think as you do that, you start understanding, man, I really believe that I've hit that point with this organization or with this role. I need to have some candid conversations with my upline, or I need to put feelers out into the industry because I have more I want to give, or I want to give differently. I may be in finance today, but I see myself in marketing, or I'm in for profit. I want to be in not for profit. So as leaders continue to develop themselves, I think that becomes clearer and clearer each and every day.
I got to ask you, you're not just a healthcare executive serving in a corporate function. You also have a coaching, a speaking element to what you do. How did that piece develop from seeing your success in your various jobs to increasing your bandwidth a little bit and saying, even within outside the context of what I do, I feel like there is a way for me to reach even more people in a different way. How did you navigate stretching your bandwidth just a little further and being, in some ways, even in a sense, reconnecting to your roots as a congregational leader and meeting people in different spaces? How did you navigate adding this on to the incredible work that you're doing?
Yeah. Well, Pierre, I'm a self-proclaimed nerd. I love reading. I love learning from people. I take notes almost on everything. People may think I'm on my phone, but half the time I'm jotting notes and notes. And early on, I realized that as I learn, I have lots of joy by sharing with others.
Yeah.
So, it starts at a place of just wanting to add value, on a regular basis, from, congregational members. And then I also spent some time teaching. And then I was a high school basketball coach. And I enjoyed anytime I gleaned some new wisdom, I want to share it. Not as if I was a subject matter expert,
Mhm.
but is this, what, this helped me, this may help you. And through just a series of events, churches will bring me in and organizations will bring me in just to speak and not only share my experiences, but to share a different perspective, because it's easy to be an organization and the concept of groupthink is very, very real.
Yeah.
If you work on a team and you've been together more than 3 to 5 years, guess what? You need to bring some new perspectives in. Not that you need to change the team, but you need to bring someone in to level set and say, hey, this is how we see things. How should we be looking at things, and continue to challenge? So it comes from a point of just wanting to add value. And I enjoy it. I enjoy helping people and inspiring people.
I know you're amazing at it. When does the book come out?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
I had to throw that in there. This section of Courageous Conversations Live, I call it shameless plug time. We got your website under the banner. We got your LinkedIn profile that will link to this conversation. Who who should click on your profile, send you a connection request? Who should go to your website? Who should reach out, fill out that contact page, and get connected? Who are you specifically looking to connect with at this time?
At this time, I'm looking for that leader that knows he or she is in that place where they want more, they want to grow, but they're maybe not sure how to navigate their next step. That leader that knows that there's something deeper inside of them, and but you're not sure where to go for that skill set and toolkit. Pierre Inspires. I'll be sharing some personal blogs on some how-tos that I've learned along the way and that I'm still learning. Articles on empathy, vulnerability, how to manage a team, and then my personal LinkedIn page, where I like to share nuggets of feedback and nuggets of growth and education. But they could connect me personally in personal messages where I enjoy connecting with people, hearing your story and how we can network and bring value to the organizations that we lead.
Oh, such good stuff. Listen, Pierre, it's still weird saying it, even though we've been talking for 20 plus minutes. Thanks so much for sharing what you have with the world and in the spaces and your journey, making yourself available. I know there are people who are going to go to pierreinspires.com. I know they're going to click on your LinkedIn profile, send you that connection request and that direct message. And I know some amazing things are going to happen, not just for individuals, but also for the organizations that they lead by partnering with you. And I want to thank you for being a guest on Courageous Conversations today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having this platform. And I tell people all the time, regardless of who you are, what you do, what you work for, we're all on the same team, right? We want to help people live better lives and be inspired. So thanks for having me.
I love it. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Take care.